I was saying y'all, but Rico from Street Scores, and we have a lot to talk about leading up to this game against the Packers this Sunday. Of course, I will be live streaming during that game, play-by-play, all of that. But wide receiver Jahan Dotson is back at practice. Logan Thomas gives a positive update on his injury situation. Is there a chance that Jahan Dotson and Logan Thomas return against the Packers? Also, we have a big Chase Young update from a doctor. We also have a Washington Commanders signing of ex-Giant and the reason why some people probably want to hear my opinion on it, ex-Georgia Bulldog quarterback Jake Fromm. We also made a couple of other moves on the roster, so I'm going to talk about my opinions on all of that. Of course, I'm going to give a big-time injury update for everything that went down in practice today, as in Wednesday, as far as guys who didn't participate, guys who were limited, guys who fully participated, all of that type of stuff. Are we going to be a healthier team going against the Packers than we've been the past couple of weeks? Maybe so. Also, we're going to end the video with some very interesting quotes from Rivera talking about Jahan Dotson, talking about how much we need to get Terry McLaurin the ball more, talking about Samuel Cosme's potential move to right guard like I've been screaming for weeks now, and also this whole Jim Irsay thing and Rivera's quick comments on that. I may do a whole video breaking down everything that just went down yesterday with all of that. I'll see, but y'all know I try to stick to the football stuff, but we're going to talk about all of that and more. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you pull up every Sunday for the live breakdown and live analysis, play-by-play breakdown of everything going on with every regular season game for the Washington Commanders. If it's Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whenever, I'm there. And make sure y'all pull up this Sunday against the Green Bay Packers while I break down everything live. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, big news, and probably one of the main reasons a lot of y'all even clicked on this video. Wide receiver Jahan Dotson was back at practice today, and I already uploaded a video earlier today where I posted the practice clips from a lot of the reporters that were there. And he looks good, man. I'm not gonna lie, it looks like he should be able to play against the Packers. I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised, because this is a long week. We're coming off of a Thursday night game, and then we're playing a Sunday game after that. So he's technically had extra time going from one game to the next. Again, because there's like a week and a half separation between that Bears Thursday night game on October 13th to this Sunday game at 1 p.m. against the Packers in Landover, Maryland, October 23rd. That's a full 10 days. So I'm really excited, man, because we need Jahan Dotson, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later when we get to Ron Rivera's comments on Jahan Dotson and why he's so important to this team and why we need him back. But just simply said, I mean, he's been our best red zone target. As our smallest receiver, he's somehow been our best red zone target. And Ron Rivera, when we get to it, breaks down exactly why. But there's just so many things. In my opinion, it's the route running, the ability to get open, the ability to separate from receivers at the very moment that you need it. He's not the biggest guy. You would think it would be like a Logan Thomas, a Cam Sims, but it's been Jahan Dotson. Remember, before he got hurt, him and Stephon Diggs were leading the NFL in touchdowns. They each had 4. Everybody else had 3 or less. And it really sucks for his Offensive Rookie of the Year award campaign, the fact that he's missed the past few weeks. Now, hopefully he can come back and get right back to it to getting touchdowns. As you've noticed, we haven't scored as many points since Jahan Dotson's been gone. I don't think that's a coincidence. Again, he's been our best and most efficient red zone target, even though he's one of our smallest receivers. But that's just how talented he is. He's been playing like a first-round pick, been playing like he should have been drafted even higher than when we got him, honestly. And the fact that we traded back and still got him, and because of that trade back, we got Sam Howell, Brian Robinson, and Cole Turner, I just think that's unfair. That was a really good move by the Commanders, which is really hard to say on and off the field with how things have been going the past few years, and even just this year. But that's one bright spot right there, Jahan Dotson, that trade back. But again, him and Stephon Diggs were literally leading the NFL out of all receivers, including tight ends, running back, anybody that can catch a pass and take it for a touchdown, any passing touchdowns. It was just Stephon Diggs and Jahan Dotson in a league of their own. So getting a guy back like that is going to be huge for this offense. And with Heinecke as our starting quarterback, and like I've already talked about in several videos, Of course, we're not going to be able to hit the deep bomb with Taylor Heinecke. You might as well go ahead and rip out a third of the playbook with that. Any deep shots, any play with Dyami Brown's number featured on it, you might as well go ahead and just take those plays out the playbook. Because even if you're using Dyami Brown as a distraction, defenses aren't going to even acknowledge it. They're just going to continue to stack 7 or 8 in the box, focus on stopping Brian Robinson, keeping everything in front of them. And so there's that. But Taylor Heinecke does provide some legs that we were hoping Carson Wentz came with, but he didn't. And with an O-line that's been struggling this season, even though it's been playing way better the past couple of weeks, especially against the Bears D-line, which is probably easily the least good D-line we've played so far this season. So it's kind of a mix of the offensive line is just straight up better with Trey Turner out in the field, and also the fact that we went against the Chicago Bears D-line. But either way, the O-line has been getting better, but at the same time, Taylor Heinecke's legs and ability to extend plays with his legs and scramble when necessary is going to open things up for a lot of these receivers that, like Jahan Dotson, is quick and can get open. Now he'll have even more time to get open because Taylor Heinecke is going to be running around, and I'm pretty sure that should help him in a way to get even more targets than he's been getting. I am worried about Taylor Heinecke in the red zone because one thing about this season, we've been bad moving the ball, but Carson Wentz has been good in the red zone for the most part, especially ignoring that one Tennessee Titans last play where, interception and lose the game. Whereas last year, Taylor Heinecke didn't really have many problems moving the ball up and down the field, but we were terrible in the red zone. Honestly, we should just play Taylor Heinecke the first 80 yards and then Carson Wentz the last 20. But either way, I think this move to Taylor Heinecke definitely hurts Dyami Brown more and maybe helps out Jahan Dotson. We'll have to see. But either way, I'm really excited to have Jahan Dotson back. That's huge for our offense, man. Y'all really don't understand. I'm gonna have to go get some advanced statistics for that and do like a whole video on what Jahan Dotson was doing for this offense while he was here. I do plan on doing some type of advanced statistics video at some point soon, so make sure y'all stay tuned for that, where it's like offensive line, defensive line, everything. Next up, tight end Logan Thomas with his calf injury said that he took a step forward today with his recovery, and we will see how he feels tomorrow, but he's hopeful that he can play Sunday. Again, with this being such a long week, them having 10 days from the last game to this game, it is quite likely that we get some guys back, and it sounds like Logan Thomas is fairly optimistic about his chance to return, and definitely would help our offense mightily. I mean, just having another dual threat guy out there, and even just Logan Thomas isolated, you want him back. But the fact that John Bates has also been hurt as well, bringing back Logan Thomas helps his offense immensely, because that means we're technically missing our top 2 tight ends when those guys are both out. I'm really excited about Cole Turner. I'm really excited about Armani Rogers, but without John Bates, Logan Thomas being gone hurts just that much more. So I really hope we can get Logan Thomas back. And before we move on to Chase Young, just an update on everybody's situations in today's practice. As in Wednesday, tight end John Bates did not participate with a hamstring injury. Dyami Brown didn't participate with a groin injury, even though at this point with Taylor Heinecke as your quarterback, Dyami Brown, I mean, take your time. Take your time. Don't even hurt yourself to try to come back as soon as possible until Sam Howell is our starting quarterback, if that ends up happening this season. Don't rush it with Taylor Heinecke because you're probably not going to get the ball anyway. Then William Jackson with his back injury, and there's also been some interesting reports that William Jackson has denied that he even requested a trade, so that's really interesting. But apparently he still didn't participate in practice with a back injury. Ron Rivera keeps, the way he's answering questions, sounds like it is because William Jackson is on the way out. William Jackson, when he's answers questions, makes it sound like it's only just a back injury, so we'll see. And then tight end Logan Thomas with his calf injury didn't participate in practice today, but again, he said from his point of view, he thinks that he may have a chance to play. And then of course Carson Wentz with his finger injury didn't participate, but we're anticipating that he's going to probably miss 4 to 6 weeks. Now we're still waiting on an official update after a couple of practices this week and trying to see if Carson Wentz can go. They're going to get a better idea of what his timetable should be, but it's definitely strongly estimated that it'll be at least 4 to 6 weeks. And then limited wise, you have offensive tackle Samuel Cosmi with his finger injury. Maybe he'll return against the Packers, we'll see. And like I said earlier in the video in the intro, will he return to right tackle or do we move him to right guard? Interesting. And then wide receiver Jahan Dotson was technically limited today. He participated in individual drills and a little bit of other stuff, but for the most part he was actually limited. He was not a full participant, but still that has me very optimistic about his chances playing against the Packers. And again, in those clips I posted in my previous video, he looks like he's ready to go to me, but I think they're just taking things slow and being overly cautious. Didn't look like he was hurt when he was running out there. And then also cornerback Tariq Castro-Fields with a knee injury recently that I think he suffered in practice. He was on the bike today, so he was technically limited. And I mean, that's really interesting because with William Jackson dealing with what he's dealing with, whether it's injuries or he doesn't want to be here and we're trying to trade him and things like that, Tariq Castro-Fields technically replaces him on the field. Now, technically, Benjamin St-Juste goes from slot to the outside to directly replace William Jackson. But with Benjamin St-Juste moving outside, Tariq Castro-Fields, who's been playing well in the slot, replaces Benjamin St-Juste in the slot. But now he's hurt. So now it's really interesting to see what's going to happen with this Packers game if William Jackson and Tariq Castro-Fields can't go. Really interesting. And then safety Percy Butler is still dealing with his quad injury, but he has been limited recently, so maybe we'll be getting him back soon. And then moving on to Chase Young, Ron Rivera gave an update on Chase Young. He said, quote, "It's taking a little bit more time. He's where the doctor envisioned him to be. He's done a heck of a job. Hopefully it continues to go well," unquote. And basically, Ron Rivera spoke to Chase Young's doctor, the one that's assigned to helping him through his rehab process. And basically the doctor said that he's not necessarily ahead of where he needs to be, but he also hasn't had any setbacks. So right now he's right on schedule. Again, Ron Rivera refused to give us the exact schedule, any timeline or anything like that. But apparently Chase Young is doing well. And again, like I posted a few days ago, maybe over a week ago or something like that, Chase Young was doing agility drills. He had no limp. He had no nothing. He looked pretty good. But of course, football shape is completely different from regular life shape. You can walk around, run around, no limp, no nothing, and be perfectly normal in real life. Can probably move a couch and pick up a bed if he needs to, move a refrigerator. But football shape is completely different, and he's just not ready for that yet. But again, the doctor has said with optimism that Chase Young is right on track and where he needs to be. Everything that they had in place ever since he's been put on the PUP list and his exact timetable and his recovery schedule, Chase Young is at exactly where they expected him to be at. Now, of course, it would have been nice if he were a little bit further ahead and they'd be saying like, oh, wow, Chase Young's recovery is going even better than we expected. But at least it's going well. At least this isn't negative news. But I'm really hoping we can get him back as soon as possible. Like I said, I'm not even sure if we're going to get him October 30th against the Indianapolis Colts, so maybe we get him back November 6th against the Vikings when we wear our all-black uniforms again, I believe. Maybe Monday, November 14th against the Philadelphia Eagles, Monday Night Football in Philadelphia. I definitely hope we get him back somewhere in the middle of the season so he can at least play the half the season, and then he could take some of that momentum, build some confidence, getting some sacks, some strip sacks, take it into the next season, and get ready to dominate like people expected you to. And that's another thing. I mean, one of the main reasons I want Chase Young, of course, he's a great player, and of course he's also the spirit of the defense. He's the spirit of the team. He's one of the main guys when healthy, running up and down the field, yelling with people. He's like our Brian Dawkins, our Ray Lewis. But even on top of all of that, this defense is not been disruptive. They've been suffocating, and for the most part they've been bend but don't break. But as far as getting turnovers, we've been terrible. I mean, that Bears game was the first time we've had a defensive turnover created since the Jaguars game, which was week 1. We didn't have a single turnover against the Lions, Eagles, Cowboys, or the Titans, all of those games in between. Now, we kind of had 2 against the Cowboys, but both of them were called back due to penalties. But literally our only takeaways are against the Jaguars and against the Bears, and that's terrible. And a healthy Chase Young probably makes a difference in that. First of all, he has a knack for getting strip sacks. You know how Montez Sweat always seems like he's one step away? Chase Young has that little bit of extra burst and also just that innate ability to strip sack quarterbacks, so maybe that'll be some turnovers. And then also with Chase Young back, love what James Smith-Williams has done, love what Efe Obada have done, Casey Toohill, love them as part of a rotation. But with Chase Young being the dominant force that he should be, if we can get just a little bit more pressure on the quarterback, maybe that will force them to think a little bit too much, maybe panic sometimes, and throw some interceptions to the secondary. So I just can't wait for Chase Young to come back, because hopefully, even though this defense has been, again, suffocating at times, it's not even just my wordage. These are national analysts that actually see that this defense has a lot of potential. Our main problem is that we just don't create turnovers. Chase Young could probably be that final piece that creates turnovers to turn our defense from a really good at times defense to a really good all the time type of defense. I mean, Chase Young, we drafted him to be that playmaker to where we need that one play on defense. We're up 2 with like 40 seconds left. We just need a strip sack. That's all we need. And Chase Young is that guy that should be able to make that play. Now, moving on, the Washington Commanders have signed ex-Giants UGA quarterback Jake Fromm to the practice squad and released defensive tackle Donovan Jeter to make that move. So he's not signed all the way to the team. He's not going to be active on Sunday against the Packers. He's not our third quarterback just yet. But honestly, I just hope he isn't. I mean, as a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan, I mean, book bag right behind me. I'll go get it. I mean, all of the merchandise I got. Love Georgia, and I appreciate Jake Fromm for everything he's done for my Georgia Bulldogs over time and taking us to the championship and things like that, even though he more so got carried to it. And you can kind of see how he's played in the NFL that was very true. And he was probably holding us back, and maybe we win one of those championships if we have a better quarterback. But again, I'm appreciative of everything he's done, but for the Commanders, no. I mean, he had Bobby McCain out here looking like an all-pro safety at the end of the season last year. That last game of the season against the Giants. Like, no. Jake Fromm, again, I appreciate everything you've done, but it's definitely Stetson Bennett over Jake Fromm, and I don't even believe Stetson Bennett's going to be a really good NFL quarterback, but I think by default, he got to be better than Jake Fromm. And my main point is, why did we bring in Jake Fromm? Like, at least if you're going to bring in like a third guy that's going to be chilling on the practice squad, why not bring back like a Cole Kelly who has a higher ceiling, maybe a lower floor, even though Jake Fromm's floor is so low. I mean, I don't know how much lower it can get with a Cole Kelly. And then Cole Kelly also was here the entire offseason, so he knows the offense better. I believe he's a free agent last time I checked, just a couple of hours ago, so I don't understand why bring in Jake Fromm. Maybe you're bringing him in as a spy from the Giants to help you prepare for the Giants, which is like 7 weeks away, I think. So I really don't see the advantage. Now, of course, Jake Fromm, former 5th round pick by the Buffalo Bills in the 2020 draft, played 3 games with 2 starts, including that game he played for the New York Giants where he threw multiple interceptions to Bobby McCain, just Bobby McCain alone. I mean, I guess he thought Bobby McCain was on his team or something. I don't know. But just some stats. During his college career, Fromm completed 63.2% of his passes, which is really not good for a guy with not a lot of arm strength. Like, you would think with a bunch of underneath throws that he was throwing in the dominant run game he had with Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, whatever. He has 7,236 yards and 78 touchdowns and just 18 interceptions. I think the reason I probably have the most disdain for Jake Fromm, though, is just because Kirby Smart, for some reason, felt like he was a better option over Justin Fields. And I'm for sure that we would have won at least one of those 2 championships we should have won if we had Justin Fields instead of Jake Fromm. So thank you, Jake Fromm, for being the reason that Justin Fields left Ohio State. But again, just to track what he's done since he's been in the NFL, he spent the year with the Bills after they drafted him again in the 5th round. They released him and added him to the practice squad ahead of the 2021 season. In November of that season, he signed with the New York Giants and appeared in his first NFL game after starter Daniel Jones and backup Mike Glennon suffered injuries. And then he started for the Giants week 16 and 17. But hey, man, I've been asking for Georgia Bulldogs to come to the Commanders, and it's not been the way I've wanted. Eli Wolf at tight end and Jake Fromm at quarterback, and I guess even going back to Thomas Davis, that he was basically just an on-field coach for us a couple of years ago. I mean, that's about it for Georgia, man, as far as my Commanders. I wish we had a better pipeline. We love Alabama, we love Oklahoma, and we definitely love Ohio State, but Georgia's just not getting love yet. And maybe if we keep winning championships, some of those guys will finally start coming to the Commanders, because, they try to draft guys that are winners. It don't get more winning than Georgia right now. You feel me? Also, today, the Washington Commanders signed running back Alex Armah, who's technically a fullback, and released Christian DeLauro from the practice squad. So, released a tackle, gained a fullback to the practice squad, and I don't know, maybe Scott Turner's thinking about bringing in a fullback, at least trying it in practices since he's on the practice squad. Maybe we're trying it throughout this week in practice, and if Alex Armah impresses enough, and maybe if the plays run well enough with Brian Robinson at running back and Alex Armah at fullback, maybe that would be something that we deploy on Sundays. I doubt it. I don't think it's very likely, but I think it's very interesting that they're bringing that in. Or maybe Alex Armah is just being brought in as like a kind of scout thing, like, let's prepare for our opponents. Maybe our future opponents that like to use fullbacks to bring Alex Armah in to simulate that, so our defense can learn how to practice against it and prepare against it and get ready for it and all that type of stuff. So either way, I think it's really interesting. Alex Armah is from Atlanta, so I'm always excited when he gets signed to the team, but I already know he's not going to have much of an impact. And then next up, a lot of really interesting comments from Ron Rivera. First of all, Ron Rivera on Colts owners Jerm Irsay's comments about Dan Snyder. He said, quote, "I'm not going to comment on that. We're focused on football," unquote. And that's pretty much the answer I expected. Nothing too special. Also, Ron Rivera was asked about whether the coaches would consider moving Samuel Cosmi to guard whenever he returns, with Cornelius Lucas remaining at right tackle. He seemed open to the possibility, but it's still to be determined. Cosmi's injured thumb among the variables, of course. And of course, like I already reported earlier, Cosmi was limited today after missing the last 2 games. But like I've been saying for weeks, I just think it makes the most sense for Cosmi to move to guard, man. He's one of the best run blocking tackles already in the NFL, but he struggles in pass protection, and then he super struggled against the huge, strong guys around the edge from the Philadelphia Eagles. And I just feel like putting him in a smaller area to work with at guard. I mean, remember Brandon Sheriff was technically supposed to be a tackle when we drafted him. We moved him to guard. He became an all-pro guard. I think Samuel Cosmi literally could be that. He's a mauler in the run game. I think he would already be one of the better run blocking guards in the NFL, one of the best run blocking guards in the NFL. Again, he's already one of the best run blocking tackles. Move him to guard, make him have to work with less space, let him just use more strength and footwork, and man, watch him work, man. I think he could be great. And Cornelius Lucas has been pretty good at right tackle right now, which I'm not surprised by, but still. And I like what I've seen from Sadiq Charles at right guard as well, but I just think Samuel Cosmi is way better suited for guard. Let him just use all of his athleticism and strength. I mean, one of the highest RAS scores for an offensive lineman ever to touch the NFL since they've been keeping track of that for the past 20-30 years. And I just think all of the athleticism would just be better suited, especially with this lack of length in his arms. Just let him work at guard, man, and watch him ball out. And when in doubt, if Andrew Norwell, even though he had a bounce back game against the Chicago Bears, if he's bad, maybe you move Sadiq Charles to left guard and Samuel Cosmi at right guard, and maybe that's our best combination of offensive linemen right now. But at least try to experiment and see in practice or something, because you never know. Also, Ron Rivera spoke on Jahan Dotson. He was asked why Jahan Dotson is such a good red zone threat. He said, quote, "He runs very mature routes," unquote, and says that Jahan Dotson's ability to put his body in between the football and the defender is top notch. I'm telling y'all, man, Jahan Dotson is honestly our best red zone threat, which is crazy because he's so small. And Rivera basically expounded upon the fact that his body positioning and how he understands body positioning and how he basically gets in between the ball and the defender no matter what's going on is like a very vital trait to have in the red zone, and not everybody has that. Even though he's small, he makes up for it. I mean, we said this with him coming out of the draft, he plays bigger than his size, and it hasn't been any less true since he's hit the NFL. He's doing to NFL corners what he was doing to Ohio State elite corners when he was at Penn State. He's been doing this. Rivera was also asked how important it is to get Terry McLaurin the ball more, and Rivera basically said that it's very important for Terry McLaurin to get some consistency from the quarterback position. First of all, I mean, it would be nice if we could just stick with the same guy for at least one entire season in his NFL career, but he also said that they need to get him involved early regardless of who's in there. So no matter who's the quarterback, we saw this last week against the Bears, we finally started to give Terry McLaurin some manufactured targets. And now granted, some of those out of the backfield I'm not a big fan of, even though I do feel like we need to give him some out of the backfield targets, some swing passes, some reverses, whatever you got to do, some screens. But I think we need to just target him more down the field. He's open, and even when he's not open, he's always open with his ability to make contested catches. And I just hate the fact that one of my biggest pet peeves with Scott Turner so far since he's been our offensive coordinator is just watching other teams get the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown no matter what, AJ Brown no matter what, CeeDee Lamb no matter what. When we were going against the Cowboys, he was easily and by far their best wide receiver, and they still found a way to get him the ball no matter what. And I just feel like Terry McLaurin is probably open way more than Scott Turner acts like he is, and I hate the fact that Scott Turner tries to use his best players as distractions, like that goal line stand against the Tennessee Titans where Carson Wentz ultimately threw the game losing interception. But we were using Terry McLaurin as a distraction on at least one of those plays, and that's absolutely ridiculous. Get the ball to your best playmakers. I don't care. Use somebody else's distraction. I don't know why Scott Turner tries to overthink things like that. Other teams or the offensive coordinators find a way to get their players the ball no matter what. And again, I'm happy that we kind of experimented with it against the Bears, but we need to change it up a little bit. More stuff down the field, at least past the line of scrimmage, and less reverses and sweeps. Even though I do like the reverses and sweeps, that shouldn't be the majority of his touches in the game at all. That's malpractice right there. And also, before we go, apparently some fan won some raffle and then like the check bounced or something like that, but apparently they're working on that. So if any of y'all were curious about that, apparently they're sending a direct electronic payment to that guy's account. So shouts out to him for getting his money and winning that raffle. Shouts out to the Commanders for fixing that issue. But why was that even an issue in the first place? How does a check bounce from a national football team that's worth billions of dollars? Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know how that happens. But hey, if it can happen anywhere, it's gonna happen with the Commanders, man. Just another thing to add to the list of ridiculous and chaotic things that we've been dealing with since Dan Snyder's taken over. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Of course, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors. Name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.